name's Michael. Today I'm going to be talking about why the local sustainable food chain would be best to feed America. The population is growing, and our food production needs to be able to feed everyone, so no one goes hungry and everyone stays healthy. The food chain feeding America now has become very industrialized. This means it is able to make a lot of food, but at many costs to our health, the health of animals, having a healthy ecosystem, and ultimately the responsibility of keeping a healthy economy. The local sustainable food chain, however, would be best to feed America because it has the most responsible agricultural approach to feed America for many reasons. The benefits of the local sustainable food chain are that both humans and animals' health are positively affected. It also has a healthy environmental approach, and there are farm management benefits to our economy. To begin, the local sustainable food chain not only benefits our health, but it does so by taking responsible care of the animals that they raise on their pastures. Some may say that the industrial food chain takes enough responsibility of their animals to be able to produce fantastic food, but in Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, he states, CFOs increase bacteria in food and that these places are breeding grounds for new and deadly bacteria. Practices that the industrial food chain has in place is very irresponsible, and it creates very toxic bacteria. As you can see in this picture of very crowded chickens, there would be a lot of bad bacteria produced. This bacteria would end up harming and even killing animals and people as well. If this is not a good enough reason for you to take the local sustainable food chain into consideration, according to a study done at the University of North Carolina, people living near factory farms experience increased occurrences of headaches, runny noses, sore throats, excessive coughing, diarrhea, and burning eyes. The industrial food chain is a real cost to our health by using the practices they do in factories. Farms are intended to harvest food that is healthy and nutritious, yet the industrial food chain's practices do not give us these benefits. If living near one of these farms causes illness, how can we trust that the food they produce will be good for us? Nonetheless, the Grace Foundation has recognized that with very careful, responsible farm management and avoiding hazardous toxins, they are able to protect consumers, workers, surrounding communities from being exposed to these. With the local sustainable food chain maintaining a healthy mantra for people's lives, we are able to live healthy and peacefully. Continuing on, proponents of large-scale organic farming claim to be an equally good choice because they don't allow chemical weed killers while farming. They do things by hand. The one pretty big difference is they do this by plowing. In Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, he agrees that the large-scale industrial farms are better for this reason. He says, organic farming rules do not allow chemical weed killers, so they use other methods to fight weeds. Even before the crops are planted, the fields are watered to get any weed seeds to grow. A tractor then plows to the field to kill them. This is repeated several times. Later, when the crops are high, farm workers use propane torches to burn the weeds by hand. This is what many people believe about how not using the industrial food chain's way of farming will benefit the environment. In fact, using the method the industrial organic chain does sounds very natural to some people. I mean, come on, it's a lot better than using an industrialized approach to harvesting food. However, Michael Pollan also describes how the costs outweigh the benefits with this practice. He says the system they use damages the soil almost as much as chemical weed killers by killing off nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Therefore, this practice is not the best approach for creating a healthy ecosystem. The downside to this approach is that it hugely impacts our agriculture. With that said, Local Sustainable is here to save the day. The Grace Foundation recognizes that by avoiding practices that degrade soil, the local sustainable food chain is able to protect biodiversity and a healthy ecosystem. With local sustainable farms avoiding large-scale organic farm food harvesting practices that have very negative impacts on our health, in the end, a local sustainable creates a much better ecosystem. Lastly, the local sustainable food chain, farm management, and our economy will be a lot better with this chain. The Grace Foundation has found that this type of farming is economically viable and will provide farmers, farm workers, food processors with livable wages and a safe place to work. This shows how Americans would have health benefits from local sustainable food and be able to provide for their essential needs and not be homeless, because without those things, people would have bad health conditions. This also shows how people will be able to be safe while working. The Grace Foundation also says that a downside to the local sustainable chain is many farms have lost business because of the bigger industrialized corporations' practices. With this said, with the amount of local sustainable farms right now, in terms of feeding America, it's pretty low. The Grace Foundation also says, make sure you keep in mind how the industrial food chain is able to feed America. They say that although industrial agriculture now produces great quantities of food, it is able to do so only by implementing practices that threaten the environment, human health, rural communities, and animal welfare. I hope you can start to see how what we have now does not support us, and that with the local sustainable food chain in place, we will have better living conditions. All in all, the local sustainable food chain's healthy agricultural approach would be best to feed America. This chain has a caring, humane treatment of its stakeholders, its approach to make our environment more sustainable, and responsibleness to raise our economy. So think about this question. Why let a chain that is costing to all the benefits local sustainable has become your mantra? Let's make a more healthy evolution for this generation and all the next ones to come by switching to the local sustainable food chain. I hope that from listening to me today, you understand why we should make this switch.